friends sometimes come in seasons. They don't need to be in your life forever. You shouldn't feel forced to be somebody's friend just because you've known them for a long time. Friends come and go. As long as you know you're keeping yourself toxic free, putting your mental health first, that is the most important.
Welcome to the LMF Network podcast. My name is Sonia Barlow, the host, CEO, and founder. This podcast is all about building our careers and confidence with a mission to build the careers and confidence of 25,000 people by 2025 through mentoring, masterclasses, and meaningful connections. For us, this podcast is about sharing stories, highlighting incredible figures, learning about their career journeys, how they overcome failure, rejection, and imposter syndrome, what we can do to build our confidence, be our biggest cheerleaders, and really define as well as achieve our version of success. This episode is a super special episode because we are inviting our partner Taboola on screen. Taboola was one of our first partners in 2019 and we hosted several events at their offices before the pandemic. During the pandemic, we kept in touch with our contacts because networking is important, it is key, we've spoken about that plentiful times. And in 2023, we are partnering again to make sure that we are building the careers and confidence, but most importantly, having the right conversations with the relevant people and spotlighting their stories. For that reason, I'm so excited to be welcoming Suzi onto our podcast.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Suzi, thank you so much for jumping on, for coming and representing Taboola, but also for believing in us and saying yes to us for another year running.
Always. I've definitely believed in you guys from the very start and I'm super excited to partner once again.
Amazing. So Suzi, for those who don't know you, which is most of us, please do introduce yourself and tell us about you, your career journey, but also about Taboola.
Yeah, so me personally, my name is Suzi. I have been working with Taboola for about 4 years now. I'm one of the senior advertising account managers there. And I also head up and lead their ERG group called Taboola in Culture, there to support anyone who feels like their religion or ethnicity makes them a minority in their environment. Outside of work, I'm a mother to an amazing 1-year-old called Sophia, 1-year-old daughter. I've been married for 5 years and I'm originally from Sudan and Ethiopia. I've got really close ties to my culture. I was born in Sudan, raised there, and I actually got married back over there in 2018. So Arabic is my first language. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
I love that. And what does Taboola do?
Taboola is a discovery platform, a native advertising platform, and we connect clients, advertisers with their key user base through AI and machine learning. So the feed that you will see on a publisher like MSN or the Weather Channel, etc., when you scroll to the very bottom and you see all of the ads, that's usually from native advertisers like Taboola, and each feed will be different. So you will find if you go onto a specific publisher and scroll to the bottom, the ads that we serve you will be different from the ads that they serve me.
What's the most impressive thing about working at Taboola apart from the free food?
The free food is amazing. We're very, very lucky there. I think the most impressive thing about Taboola is just having such a diverse set of people under one roof. We have offices in New York, Atlanta, Tel Aviv, Bangkok, so many different places, and we're all able to connect and share ideas, which is really amazing.
And so what would your key skills be that you think you use within your current role?
So me as an advertising account manager, the key skill I think I use is relationship building or like rapport building, mainly because I meet new clients quite regularly and I have to build that relationship super fast and maintain it throughout the entire relationship that we have. What other skills? I would say time management and organization skills is really important at Taboola, especially with the new hybrid models that we have. We're given a lot of trust to do the work at home. So it's really important to be able to organize your day properly and not sit at the computer all day because that's not productive. Make sure that you get out and get some fresh air as well.
And so we spoke about kind of hybrid working. We're in 2023. Flexible working is very important for individuals. Mm-hmm. The research tells us that young professionals want to be in an environment where they're being able to work from home, where they're able to go into the office, where they're meeting their team members, where they feel like they're aligned to the values, the passion, the purpose of the organization, whilst obviously making money. How did you personally find, or how do you personally ensure that there is collaboration remotely when like you've mentioned a couple of times, you're working from home and a few times you're working from the office?
Yeah, well, I definitely think we're in a new era with remote hybrid working. As I mentioned before, we are given a lot of trust to work from home and still be able to get our work done. We're all adults at the end of the day, so we can manage our workloads from home, which is amazing. Being collaborative, especially within Taboola, comes really naturally. It's quite a collaborative culture in general. We all do projects in our teams and we need other teams' input to finish the project. So we're always working with cross collaboration with other teams. In particular, I would say the product team work really closely with
Mm-hmm.
advertising account managers to make sure that we are relaying all of our product and tech information to our clients in a nice, easy to understand format. At Taboola, collaboration is super encouraged. So when I came back from maternity leave, I literally reached out to a bunch of different people, the experts that we have in each team, and asked for one-to-one training. And I know that it can be quite difficult in other organizations. So I'm really lucky that it's encouraged and I can do that quite freely here at Taboola.
I think one thing that I think myself and often other people mistake is you're talking about advertising, then you use the word account manager. Now, I know that when
Yes.
I graduated, it was like, I
Yeah.
can't be an account manager because I'm not an accountant.
Hmm.
Clearly, they're not the same things, but you don't know that. You don't know what you don't know. So, when you're using terms like advertising account manager, if we break it down to those who are watching, what does that mean in your day to day?
Yeah.
And therefore, how can someone enter that role if they have no experience?
So it's nothing to do with maths or really like too many numbers or anything like that. So advertising account managers, we manage a book of business of clients in my businesses, advertisers. So we manage a bunch of clients. We help them grow their advertising spend and also maintain a relationship with them. So what we do day to day is meet our clients, look at their campaigns, so the adverts that they're currently running, and try and strategically help them optimize. Really small changes can yield big results. So attention to detail, as I mentioned before, is really key there.
So, one thing you also mentioned was being a mom. Congratulations, and
Thank
being
you.
married. Did it worry you to like have a baby and then to be in the workspace? And I'm not talking about Taboola specifically. I'm talking
Hmm.
about having a career as a confident woman of color
Hmm.
and then becoming a mom and adding the extra labor or intersectionality into it. Because I know that a lot of conversations we have, and especially a lot of people that email us at the LMF network, they tend to go towards career breaks and
Hmm.
what if I decide to take a career break or change my career, or what if I decide to become a parent? How is that going to impact my progression? And I know personally it's something that I question as well,
Hmm.
is it going to impact my growth and also my identity, I think, at some point too?
Definitely. I think it's something that every woman who's planning to have children or has children has thought about. I think what you should view maternity as is like not taking a step out of the workplace. You're not taking a step back, sorry, you're taking a step out. You will come back, everything is still going to be, nothing is going to be on fire. You will be okay. And you're taking that step out to do something so much more important, raising your child. Having a good maternity policy in the company is really important. I know for you it's a little bit difficult because you run your own business, but from my experience at Taboola, we've got an outstanding maternity package. So I was lucky enough to not have to think about monetary issues when I was on
Mm-hmm.
maternity leave. And when I got back, we get 2 months part time. So it was easy. It was a nice way to ease myself into the workplace. But when I did get back to full time, it was hard. And that's an understatement. Like it was really, really difficult to switch from spending every waking moment with my daughter, Sophia, to going 2 days into the office. And obviously, I wake up with her, do the morning routine and everything, but she sleeps at 7 p.m. I finish work at 6. By the time I get home, she's sleeping. So I feel like I've missed a day with her, and mum guilt is real. You constantly feel like you're not doing enough, and you get home and you feel sad that you've wasted a day. But it's not like you've wasted a day. You have been at work. It's not like you've just been sitting at
Of
home.
course, but it's unless you're a parent, I think you wouldn't understand those feelings. And I am not a parent, but one day
Mm,
I'd like to come into parenthood. And so I'm using this experience also to have the real conversations with individuals about how you manage
mm-hmm.
those two lives. And
Yeah,
I do think they're two separate lives. I don't think they're
sure.
one life. And I think that idea of like showing up as your full authentic self at work, I question that. I'm like, I don't know if I can show up as my full authentic self because I maybe don't want to. I can show up as my authentic work self,
Mm-hmm.
my authentic life self, but maybe I don't want the lines to be blurred. And I think when you're a parent, what I've seen with the parents around me is often sometimes their lines get blurred. And
Yeah.
I think I want to know what I should be preparing myself for before we make those decisions, because they are life-changing decisions.
Absolutely. It's a new normal because my life is nothing like it was before having my daughter. Like it's a complete new normal for me. And being a mother can really consume you. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, each to their own, but I've had to really work hard to have me time and to build on like confidence building and unlearning, relearning all of these different things because it is such a shift. Everything is so different after having a child. Like your life kind of goes on the back burner. It all becomes about that little human that you've created. So I completely understand how it can be scary, but you can never prepare for parenthood. Like it's going to hit you and you're going to be amazing. That's just how it is.
And you touched on topics like confidence. So for us, obviously, confidence, overcoming imposter syndrome, finding your sense of self
Yes.
are really important. And I think, I mean, now I've just entered my 30s. A part of me feels like you have these phases where you have phases of growth and phases of confidence and moments where you don't. So I think it's really important to acknowledge when you're not feeling confident, take a step back and be like, it's completely fine. I'm not confident. You
Hmm.
don't know if you're confident or not until you are not confident, right?
Yeah.
And like 70% of us feel like imposters. So I think I'm a big believer of like, and this might sound harsh, but your imposter syndrome is unique, but
Hmm.
you're not the only one going through it. So it's okay to acknowledge that you feel like an imposter, which means you feel like a fraud or you're not good enough or you're
Hmm.
undeserving, but you're not the only one going through it. So how do we ask for help? How do we get mentors? How do we get support? So I guess my point is that as a mum, you had a different sense of confidence
Hmm.
prior to motherhood, and now you have a different sense of confidence.
Yeah.
But I can also assume, and based on the conversations we've had, that maybe imposter syndrome also creeped up. How did you overcome those feelings of insecurity when you were leaving the workspace and then entering the workspace once again?
Imposter syndrome is definitely something that I've dealt with hugely. And similarly to what you said, 70% of people feel like imposters. And that's super important. I feel like the main tip I can give around imposter syndrome is just to acknowledge that it's not a you issue. It's something that even the most senior people feel and go through. So I think the first step is to notice that it's not a problem that is unique to yourself. So many other people do it. And some tips that I've used is acknowledging your successes. I have a achievement stock where I put down all of the achievements that I find like I've done really well at, and I look at it weekly, and that really helps with promotion conversations, pitches in your sense, and just overall mental health. It's so important to give yourself that tap on the back and remember what you've accomplished, because if you don't note it down, sometimes it can completely pass you by and you forget about all the amazing things that you've done.
And for those individuals, professionals, be that in their first job, second job, next job, or looking to kind of shift their career, how can they go and have these conversations with their colleagues at work to say, listen, I'm not doing okay. I'm not feeling well. I'm not in my
Hmm.
100% best self. I don't feel as energetic or as kind of into it as I could be. How can we have those conversations without the other person thinking or believing that we just don't want to do the work? Because, imposter syndrome, though it's not a new term,
Hmm.
I do think it's a new phrase that we have been coining at work and maybe using a lot more than we did a few years ago.
Yeah.
And therefore, we're sharing that information out on social media. Young professionals generally, even parents are feeling like we don't know enough, and we kind of feel like we're not quite there yet. So
Hmm.
if there's anyone listening thinking, I want to go have that conversation with my colleague, my friend, my loved one, or even, my manager to say, listen, I need a little bit of support. What are some of the steps that you, from your experience, can advise?
For me, I think I completely understand that it's super hard to go to your workplace and really give your true self, bring your authentic self to work and have these conversations with your managers. So, my recommendation would be join networks and tribes such as LMF. There's so many out there like BYP, NABS, MIFA, Bloom, so many, and majority are free as well. So, I think upskill yourself and reach out to these different communities, find your tribe. And there is a lot of career coaching out there. So speak to people, maybe mentors and career coaches, etc., that can help prepare you for these conversations so you're not going in blind. Reach out to people you want to meet in LinkedIn, go to networking events, etc. Find people that inspire you and draw confidence from them to have these discussions internally.
And you spoke about mentorship. When was the first time you got a mentor?
So my first mentor was my university lecturer.
Oh, wild. Okay.
Yeah, I know. He really helped me with my dissertation. And when I left uni, he still kept in touch and he helped me land my first role. So I think it's really important to, whenever you meet someone in your life that's touched you and impacted you, don't be afraid to reach out again. Not necessarily to ask them to be a mentor, but maybe a sponsor. So a sponsor doesn't have to have weekly calls with you and doesn't have to have constant reach out, but it's someone that you know you can lean on for some advice and have them as like a knowledge board for you.
And so was that a formalized or an informal mentoring relationship?
It was very informal. I think the first formal mentorship I had was through LMF.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
It was.
That's great.
It was.
That's a good sentiment for us. Amazing.
It was. And it was great. And I'm still in contact with my mentor now.
Amazing. And so tell me about that experience. You know, yes, as somebody who created the mentoring program, amazing, but also as a recipient of that, what was one of the myths that you debunked for yourself, maybe?
Mm-hmm. I think having that I thought it was going to be very awkward having these like one-to-one conversations with mentors, especially someone I haven't met before. What I really appreciated with the LMF one, I think we had a mentoring group. So it was me and two others. We were all interested in getting into the DEI sector, and you paired us with a senior DEI leader. So it was a great way to have, to like eliminate that awkwardness. And we were having like, I think it was bi-weekly chats on Zoom. So it wasn't awkward at all. And I've still kept in contact with everybody in the group now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's wild. And I have to say this is, though I've started it and though I contribute to it and though I run it and though I'm the face, the founder, the CEO, I think actually hearing people's stories is quite overwhelming and it makes me a little bit giddy inside. You know, we have a 98% success rate. I didn't even know those numbers were achievable, but they're achievable because we take time to match individuals. We train you accordingly. We say, listen, anyone and everyone has a capability to be mentor or mentee. You kind of pick your vibe. We take you through that, but we say there is one goal that you have to define that measure of success for you and achieve that. At the same time, sometimes mentoring relationships don't work out. Managing relationships don't work out.
Yeah.
Relationships with your own friends and situationships don't work out. What would your advice be to people who are watching thinking, I've had a difficult conversation or I'm just not vibing with my mentor, my manager, my colleague, my friend anymore? How do you create those boundaries? Or how do you have that very courageous yet challenging conversation?
I think just practice with yourself, really. Note down the bullet points that you want to cover. I think when you have conversations that maybe feel like make you anxious or the thought of them make you anxious, it's really important for me to note down what I want to say, because I will get into that situation and then I'll feel so anxious I won't say half the things that I wanted to get out. So for me, preparation is key. I'm quite a overly organized person. I like to have docs and Excel sheets, etc. And since being a mum, even more so, because I feel like I forget everything. So it depends on how you are. Some people are just like off the wing, just get on there and do it. I feel like you're very much
I like that.
on the fly. I'm not. I'm complete opposite to that. I even like every time I have, before I have a client meeting, I write down things that I want to say, even though I've done it a million times. But for me, that helps me make sure that I get every single thing out that I wanted to say.
I think it depends, right? So like currently I'm having a serious conversation with a client. I've written out everything in time order. I've taken bullet points. I've gotten other people's feedback. I'm also sleeping on those emails until I send them. But if it's something like this, yeah, there's a vibe of like what I want to get out of this conversation, but I don't want to fully script it because it's not authentic. So for me, it's about having that fine line between prepared and authentic. I generally am not great at admin. I make it really clear to people to say, here's my WhatsApp, please drop me a line.
Yeah.
Or, you know, young professionals who want to get in touch. I'm like, if I don't reply to you the first time, it's not personal. Just email me 3 times or DM me here and DM me there, because maybe I might just not look at it in the same way or acknowledge it or respond there and then, because there's so many other things going on in your brain you don't know. And generally, organization is not my strong point.
Fair.
So you identify your gaps and you bring in the right people to
Mm-hmm.
support you with these things. I think also a big part of it is just that self-awareness piece. So I also think a big part of that self-awareness piece is giving yourself the time and the space to breathe and
Mm-hmm.
figure out what that self-awareness looks like and who you are. And what I mean by that is recently I've had this, it's been quite weird, but recently I've had all these people in my DMs being like, hey Sonia, we remember you from you were like this time and that time, and all these like ex-friends popping up. And I was like, but you weren't there to support me when I needed you, and you didn't really help my growth or my glow up. And now I'm doing something substantial. You want to get back in touch with me. But I feel like the little figure from Up, the little granddad who has like balloons and he's like lifted.
Yeah.
I felt like when I let my toxic friends or bad friends or people that just didn't support me go, I felt like a weight was lifted. And so I guess this question comes in twofold: is when you went into motherhood, what was your relationship like with people around you? And how did you really set boundaries with individuals, be that good friends, bad friends, or toxic friends? And then the secondary point to that is you also have those feelings in the workspace.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to anyone who's feeling a little bit insecure about themselves, but also isn't surrounded by the advocates or the allies or the sponsors or the mentors? So I appreciate that's a loaded question, but I think, as you said, I haven't really scripted it. I'm just thinking out loud as we go along.
I would say definitely the transition into motherhood has been difficult on my friend group because I don't have the time that I used to have. I am an extrovert. I like to go out. I like to go meet my girls, and I've always been someone that has like come over to mine, let's have games nights at mine, etc. And I've gone from that to like I'm in bed at like 8:30 nowadays. like when I put Sophia down, like after I do bath routine, me and my husband have dinner. I'm done. Like I'm ready for bed. So I think your good friends, your loyal friends will understand. And I love those friendships where you don't have to speak every day. You see each other once every couple months, and the love is exactly how it was the last time you saw them. And that is adult relationships. Anybody else who doesn't understand or feels that you've got a lack of love for them just because you're not contacting them every day, maybe they're not the type of friend that you need right now. Friends sometimes come in seasons. They don't need to be in your life forever. You shouldn't feel forced to be somebody's friend just because you've known them for a long time. Friends come and go. As long as you know you're keeping yourself toxic free, putting your mental health first, that is the most important. You are your biggest advocate, and you should really just look after yourself first.
Absolutely. And I'm definitely going to clip all of that for socials. Like, it's such an important message that you've shared. Now let's put it back into the workspace. You've worked in a few companies.
Yeah.
And you also volunteer in a few companies. So you see the workspace in this more holistic framework that maybe the most of us do. But individuals who go into the workspace often think that this is all they're going to do, or all they can do, or this is the ladder that they're going to climb.
Yeah.
And they find themselves with bad managers, with toxic friends, with relationships that don't serve them, with people who are not the allies or sponsors in the workplace. And I know that when it happened to me, do you know what it was? It was women. Do you know, sometimes it was women. It was like, hey, but I thought we were going to be friends, and you told me that you were my like ally, and you said that you were going to be there for me, and then turns around and then I turn around and you're not. I think that was the hardest for me, was how can another woman make me feel so insecure or make me feel inferior or actually be a blocker? And the way that I overcame that was, yes, to start LMF, but that was after years of suffering to some extent, and suffering alone, because I didn't know, or I didn't think I was brave enough to share it. So now I share it with individuals. I talk to my informal mentors. I have the right WhatsApp groups and the right channels to, vent, let's say. I also tend to kind of give myself a score out of 10 and say, right, after I had this chat with this person, out of a 10, how much, what's my energy levels? Like, do I feel like I'm a 10 being like, yeah, I've got this? Or do I feel like
Drained.
I left that drained and that's, a 0 and I need to be on recharge? So what is your advice for individuals who are entering the workspace or at university or just figuring themselves out when they have these like gatekeepers and blockers who come in the form of colleagues?
Yes. It's interesting you said women, because although I did a PR degree, my dissertation was on women in leadership. And that's what kind of sparked...
What does PR stand for?
Public relations.
Oh, sorry. So you did a public
I did a
relations.
public relations and
I
marketing
apologize.
degree.
I don't know why I thought that. You know what? I thought you said PE. And I was like
physical
so
education.
I was like, so you did physical education.
Are you
now
trying to say,
work,
I know I'm thick,
now
girl,
you
but...
work for Taboola? I was like, how
Yeah.
did that? Sorry, right. So
No. I did a PR degree.
Amazing.
I thought I wanted to get into PR, but my dissertation was on women in leadership. That's kind of what sparked my interest into diversity, because I got to really dive into the studies and the theories behind it. And I did my own research, of course, for the dissertation. And I found that exactly what you said is correct. Women, not a lot of them, but on my dissertation, I found that a lot of senior women found that people coming into the industry need to work just as hard as they did to get to where they are. So it's kind of a thing where like they get up the ladder and they pull the ladder back up because they want you to struggle the same way they did. And I think our generation are quite opposite to that. Like, if I built this table, I want to bring a seat for the next lady.
And if there's not enough seats, we just make another table.
Period.
Like, it's not that deep,
Period.
you know? You just buy some fold-up chairs and you make sure that we have them when we sit on each other's laps. Like,
yes, I love that for us. And I feel like we're going to really break that cycle, because we want to help you. That's why you started LMF. You know what I mean? Like, you want to support women. We want to support women. But the dissertation really opened my eyes that, like, not everybody thinks like that. And in the professional environment, what I would say is, like, believe in your source, like, know who you are, upskill yourself and move on. Like, there's so many jobs out there. You do not need to be tied to one role. And like, you can always move. You can always move. Just believe in yourself and know that you are amazing at your role, and step out and search for a different job.
and as a woman of color, I have to bring this point up. Not because I like to be like, you're a woman of color, I'm a woman of color, but because you have different problems and challenges that you face.
Yeah.
What is a barrier, a problem, or a challenge that you face that you just didn't think you would have?
I think it's that, like, yeah, I think you mentioned this to me like in another conversation, is like bringing your authentic self to work, or bringing your whole self to work. Like, we wear different hats every day, like, whether it's like your friend hat, your wife, your mother, whatever. And when you go into work, you wear a hat. And especially being a woman of color, I'm a Black Muslim woman. When I'm in the workplace, I feel like, not every workplace, but every workplace, every professional workplace I've ever worked in, I'm usually the minority. And I usually find that I have to conduct myself in a certain way, because I don't want to fit into the stereotypes. The angry Black woman, etc. For one, I find that I'm overly smiley in the office, and I make sure, even if I'm delivering a stern message, I want to do it with a smile, because I don't want to come across as aggressive. And I've been called aggressive in the professional environment before, and I'm so far from that. But I think it is because of those stereotypes that are pinned on us. It's easy for other groups of people to label us, because they've grown up hearing all of these labels anyway, so they're already out there. It's really easy to put it on us.
One thing that I found in the workspace is they wanted my energy, they wanted my ambition, they wanted my confidence in the interview round. They were like, we want you. And I was like, you want me? Oh my God, you want my whole self?
Yeah.
I am ready. I'm going to come smash it. And then I go into the workplace and they still want me during probation. And then after probation, they're like, so... you know what we really want is we want this version of you and that version of you and that version of you, and they pick and choose like it's a pick and mix bag. And I was like, wait, hold on, because 6 months ago you said you wanted my whole self, and then during probation you were really vibing with me, and now I feel like sometimes I feel like they trap you.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're trapped. You've got money coming in now, and it's good money. Where are you gonna go? How are you gonna? Your notice period is 1 to 3 months.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go and apply for a new job. You're not gonna do anything. I've stayed in those job roles personally because I felt like either I'm not good enough to be employed somewhere else, or I haven't done enough work here, or am I really gonna take 6 months trying to find a new job, and then that happens to me again, and then you become stuck, and you become complacent, and you become confused, I think is my point. So one thing that we really like to do, not just through LMF, but I think through being a woman of color in media, on TV, doing a podcast, writing a book, on the radio. It's not, I'm like, I'm looking at all these things. I'm like, look at all the things I can achieve despite all the challenges and all the barriers, which is my story. Okay, well, here's like the cheat sheet or the shortcut, or like, here's how I can get you in. Here's how I can support you in that career ladder. Here's how we can run the relevant events or mentoring programs or partnerships to say, look, we do exist. And because we exist, we want you through that door. That's one reason I think we're working closely with Taboola this year, is because we want to do the initiatives where it's like, hey, both of us are serious about this conversation. So we want to bring those different people through the door to say, if we can be here, you can be here too.
Absolutely. And I love that we're working really closely with the talent acquisition team to make sure that all the events that we run and all the people that we get through the door, these diverse bunch of people, they're getting the right opportunities and hopefully can come and join the Taboola team.
Absolutely. But touching on that point around confusion,
Yes.
what do you do when you're confused in your career? Because whilst I was talking out loud and saying whatever I just said in the last clip, I realized that I was also talking about being confused. Like you get confused, you get somewhat stuck between who you are and what you think the workplace wants from you and the work that you're doing, and then you're managing your clients and then thinking about how you're going to climb up that ladder. What should someone be doing when they're confused about who they are, firstly, and then secondly, who they are in the workspace? Because I think those are two different things.
They are definitely two different things. You should detach yourself from your work self. You are not your job. You need to hear that, Sonia. You are not your job. You are definitely you should definitely separate the two. And it's a lot of internal work that needs to be done. The person that's going to help you the most in those tough times is yourself. So you've got to really work on internally building your confidence up and unlearning all of these imposter syndrome and everything that's in your head telling you that you're not good enough. It's all internal work. So I would say reach out to people in the network. There's a lot of help out there. Just go and get it.
Earlier, you also spoke about networking, finding your tribe, and you spoke about the skills that you're using in your day to day. So, earlier in the episode, when you did your introduction, one thing that really stuck out to me was the fact that you said Arabic is your first language.
Yes.
And the reason it stuck out to me is because we live in England and everyone tries to make English their first language.
Yeah.
And if anything, I don't know about you, but I've grown up being told that English is your first language, that it should be your only language. And I think I've actually lost a little bit of my mother tongue because I tried to learn English so much.
Yeah.
And now people are like, that can't be your real accent.
I get that all the
I'm like,
time.
it is my real accent.
Yeah.
Obviously, when I was like 9, I realized that I had to accent myself up. And so I've been, let's say, practicing. But this is my accent because this is the accent that I heard that got you through the doors. And so I made it my accent. I guess my point to you is, you said the fact that Arabic is your first language so proudly. And I felt a certain way about that. And I wish that I could say that about my language. And maybe that's because I'm having some kind of cultural identity crisis right now. I'm putting my hand up and I do feel like that. But I feel like I lost myself a little bit trying to conform to the workplace and trying to please other people and their requirements of you as a character in like this corporate world. Does that make sense? Maybe it doesn't.
Absolutely. No, I completely get it, especially when I say to someone, Arabic is my first language and that's the language I speak at home. They're like, oh, but you haven't got an accent. Like, you don't sound like Arabic is your first language. And like you said, it's because I've had to make this my accent. Like when I was younger, I had an accent. But when you get into the professional world, you are treated differently. It's a like another type of discrimination
You
if you have an
shouldn't be.
accent.
Absolutely, we
You
shouldn't be.
Should not be. Like my parents have strong accents. They've been here longer than me, but their accents are super strong because they are really like surrounding themselves with people in their community. Like with me, I'm obviously not surrounding myself with a bunch of Arabic speakers. So my accent, this has become my natural accent now. And then when I go back home, take that professional hat off and I can speak Arabic in my home.
And one thing that you mentioned when we met earlier in the month that I'd really want to kind of touch on is the fact that working at Taboola, they want you to have more than one language. And I just thought that that's definitely something we should talk about because a lot of companies don't make that as a nice to have or necessary requirement. If anything, they don't talk about it. But you said to me, you're looking for people who are not native English speakers.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was wild.
It is wild. It's the first company I've ever worked for that has that type of culture. If you walk through the office, you know, it's quite a big office. If you walk around the office, you will hear different languages easily. Like I sit right next to the German team. They speak German the whole day. They all speak perfect English. They're all like university degrees, business school, etc. And they can speak English perfectly, but they speak German in the office. The French team speak French, Spanish team, same. Like, so it's amazing that we have that culture that everyone really brings their culture into the office. We have, and we're working on like a language board, which is like a word cloud in the office with all the different languages that we have, including the languages in my ERG. For example, in Ghana, we've got 3 of our ERG members that speak different languages, but they're all from Ghana and they speak different languages in Ghana. And people just wouldn't know that. I think the main language is Twi, but you hear other ones like Ga is one. I don't remember the other one, but there is so many different languages in each country that are quite underrepresented. And at Taboola, we do try and highlight those.
And why is that? Why is that the case at Taboola, that you try and bring these different languages in? And how does that help you with your clients and your commercial kind of output? Because fundamentally you are running a business.
Yeah, and a media business at that. I think it's super important to represent your community. In London, it's like 40% of people, young professionals, are Black, Asian, minority ethnicity. So it's important that we mirror that, especially London is our head office and we want to mirror that. And we also have ERG groups. And that's what we do in our ERG groups, is make the people that are from backgrounds that are not not a majority, we try our best to make them feel at home in the office and make them feel that they can bring their entire self to the office.
So this is 2023. What are some of the roles that Taboola is hiring for this year alone?
Girl, I
You're
don't know.
like, I didn't bring the job description.
I can check. I think Ollie knows exactly.
Cool. Let me rephrase that question then.
Yeah.
So this is 2023. Taboola are absolutely hiring for roles. We know that because we're hopefully getting you the diverse talent, if not just the access to different talent, which is super important. As someone who works at Taboola, as someone who works with colleagues, what are the top 3 skills that you think individuals need when they're applying for roles at Taboola?
I think definitely adaptability. Something important at Taboola is being able to adapt to different trends in the market. We work in the media industry, so things change all the time. Communication skills, speaking to different clients, both external and internal, and cross collaborations within the team. Communication is super important. And having that growth mindset. There's all of these like buzzwords, like we want you to be wave makers and all of these type of things, but it is really important to have that growth mindset, like a problem solving mindset. It's super important. So check out the Taboola careers page. We are hiring and would love to attract and retain more diverse talent.
Well, Suzi, thank you so much for coming on the LMF podcast.
You're
This
very
will
welcome.
not be the only time that we hear from you.
Yes,
but we wanted to make this very much a Taboola-centric episode as we announce our partnership, which is super exciting. Just as a reminder, how can people check out Taboola as a career site, but also how can they get in touch with you as well directly?
You can check me out on LinkedIn, Suzi Adan. Go into the careers Taboola page, and also check us out on our socials. So we're on Instagram and LinkedIn. Have a look at the content that we put out and the jobs that we have on offer.
Well, thank you so much. This is a special episode with Taboola, who is one of our partners for 2023. In this episode, we've really touched on everything you possibly can, from motherhood, imposter syndrome, confidence, to building your career skills, joining a company that wants you to speak more than one language, if not have different languages as your first language. And foremost, it's really about taking a bet on yourself. If you want to hear all our other episodes, which are amazing, by the way, go on our website, www.lmfnetwork.com, or follow us across all socials at LMF Network. You can obviously like, share, subscribe with your friends. But most importantly, please do check out all the careers that Taboola have to offer on their website, and or connect with Suzi on LinkedIn. You can learn more about the podcast, get involved and listen via our website, www.lmfnetwork.com. You can follow us across all socials at LMF Network. Remember to like, subscribe, share and tell a friend. Get involved and drop us your comments or questions so that we can make sure that it's really adding value to your lives.